What it be? How it's doing? Welcome to the lunar eclipse full moon in Pisces, GK55, where we've got Neptune there as well. Look at us in the dream, wakening from the dream. Hello and welcome in your waking dream state. What is it that you're here to manifest and to create? What is it? I'm going to sit here for a second while I allow some people to get notifications to jump into this live before I just start breaking shit down. So get comfy, get something to drink, or fast forward if you're watching the replay. Because we're in real time, side reel, watching as the cosmos unfold. Because we are the cosmos. What do we got? We got 3 people. Hello. Well, thank you for joining us, for watching right now. Go ahead and write in the chat where you're from, huh? What are your intentions? What are you doing today to celebrate the lunar eclipse? Huh? Where are you allowing yourself to imagine and to expand, right? What limiting beliefs have you allowed for yourself to be caged into, right? GK55, the shadow of the victim mind, right? Where have you? Oh my gosh, my hair is like not on par. Whatever. Don't mind me, no makeup. I ain't got nothing on right now. I didn't even do my hair. I was just like, we're gonna do this. Go ahead and write it in though. Or in the comments if you're watching the replay. What are your intentions? Huh? Maybe you didn't have any setting those intentions. Take time. I'm gonna go get some cards. Good things happen here. When we set our intentions. What else? What cards are calling us? I am being called to the beyond. The beyond. Beyond, beyond, beyond. Hello. I didn't even know that thing was on. What? I didn't even know my speaker was on. Bro. What? That was crazy. It's just talking about the beyond. Oof. It just reminded me of like exiting. All right. Let's put on some relaxing music for the background. Hopefully you guys can't hear it, because if you can, then that means my video will get yanked from YouTube. So this music's for me. The really low like volume. All right. We still have people in here. Nobody wants to say where they're from. Just want to hang and watch, I guess. Okay. Well, thank you for being a part and anchoring the energy wherever you are. All right. I want to get some cards out. The energy today is, I'm feeling a little, I mean, there's been emotions, not really too emotional though. Pisces is the river. And so it's mutable, it's flowing. It's the home of the divine. This is where the moon is at. It's where Neptune is at. This is the moon conjunct Neptune. The esoteric ruler of the moon is Neptune. The moon veils Neptune at that too. It veils it. So what Neptune is illusions, right? It's notorious for being illusions, but that's very limiting. Illusion is like, we live in a world of illusions. We live in a world of imagination. And honestly, this world that we've been living in is lackluster of imagination. It's been very boxed, right? We're living, in my perspective, the time of Satan is the time of like the Saturn rule, and the devil's reign and, you know, being very limited in what it is that our imaginations of what we could create, right? We've been put into these structures of rigidity, of indoctrination, of what it is that we should create. That makes you a good girl and a good boy. If you're materialistically focused and you're falling in line and listening to what Daddy Devil has to say, right? So the idea of Neptune being, you know, the planet of illusions, it's very, very limiting, actually. It's demeaning. It's so Neptune, in my perspective, it's about expanding your perceptions and stepping into your dream world and allowing for yourself to really feel, right? Feel what it would be like to be living in your dream reality, to embrace the unknown, to embrace spirit, right? And the 12th house has been, which is truly the 13th house, but we won't go there today. We'll just go with the 12th house, has been notorious for, you know, the psyche, known as a psyche, or not just or, but and psych wards and psychosis and mental institutes. And it's really the home of spirit. And in order to connect to our spirit in this world that has disconnected us from birth due to jabs that are created. I'm quoting this from Rudolf Steiner, who wrote about modern medicine and vaccines. Again, this is for entertainment purposes, but how vaccines were used in medicine, modern medicine was going to be used to sever the soul from the body. And in order for us to co-create a world of God's design, we need to be connected to the God within us, which is our soul, and that spark of spirit within. And so the 12th house represents the return, like we've gone through the wheel of creation, and we've returned to the 12th house of Pisces, which is returning to spirit. And so we've accomplished all of the worldly things, and now we've come to rest in the 12th house, the home. It's the return to the Godhead, essentially. And this is mutable water, and so this is understanding and trusting the flows of life, or the curves of the river and the rapids of the river, or the calm and the steady, just the path that life is taking you to where you're ultimately meant to be, which may not be what your lower egoic personality had thought it was supposed to be, right? So trusting in that spirit that guides you, right? When you can paint with all the colors of the wind, right? Listen, my dear, the spirits are all around you. I'm quoting some Pocahontas shit over here. So the spirits are all around you, speaking all around you. So Pisces there's this, in our modern world, the reason why it's associated with psychosis and mental wards and institutions, imprisonment, is because the spirit has been imprisoned. And in order to break out of the linearity and the rigidity of the limited thinking, we have to go through states of we go through a psychotic break. We call this the shaman going out into, the boy going out into the forest and coming back a man, right? Or having a ayahuasca journey and breaking the paradigms of your indoctrinated, normal, mental state. Okay, so when we go through these awakenings, right? These ego deaths or dark nights of the soul, this is breaking the structure of the mind and putting us into states of psychosis, even though truly the world is in a mass psychosis. It's in a mass indoctrination system. So this lunar eclipse in Pisces, conjunct Neptune, It means their energies are together. So moon and Neptune, the planet of the dream, okay? The Leela, the dance, right? This is the dream. This is the illusion, the grand illusion of where we project ourselves. This realm is where we project ourselves. Our spirit projects itself to have a physical experience. And so in the home of Pisces, the moon, the unconscious, right? What is unseen from within our creation realms, how we desire to be treated and nurtured and loved, right? But when that's not met and we're creating from an unconscious place, then we're locked into an emotional tyranny and a nightmare. It's another reason why the moon gets demonized, because we've been creating from an unconscious place, from the subconscious programs and onsets that are already pre-written in our DNA from your ancestors. And so you've been living those patterns. So with the lunar eclipse, full moon, it's a partial lunar eclipse, full moon, and GK55. This is freedom from the victim mind, the victim mindset. And the mind is the lower mind, the animalistic, indoctrinated, individuated, conceptualized, subjective mind. And liberating us as we return home, to our truth. North Node is in Jinki 63, which is the city of truth, God's truth, creation's truth, not an individuated, subjective truth based on a perceptual lens of your perceived experience, based on your subjection to reality based on your DNA transcripts that come pre-programmed. This is a liberation into God's truth, into the dream, God's dream, a collective liberation for those that are choosing to align to God's plan. Not a false creator God, the one source, infinite intelligence God, the creator of all. Not a God that has a human name. So let's look at the chart. So Pisces, again, we're returning to, I gotta hit the share screen. I'm looking at the chart. But you, my dear. Actually, hold on. Let me redo that. I'm going to put my face on it. There we go. We want that. Wonderful. We'll do a side-by-side this week. Wonderful. All right. So, oh man, that's right. All right. How do we expand over here? All right. So I've been talking a lot about the full moon. You're going to see this chart. I pulled it up at a different time before it's fully culminated, because I wanted to point out the 30 and the rapture. But the full moon being in opposition, complete opposition to the sun, all right? The moon moves 13 degrees a day. So essentially it started in the 30 this morning, and it will culminate in the 55, all right? And so the 30 is the city of rapture. So the moon, this nurturance, this loving mother, again, the moon connects with the mother. The moon is also a reflection of the black sun, the internal creation sun. And so the phase of the moon is showing us how much of creation, the mother, the black sun, is the mother, is the creation sun, is our internal sun. in our body. And then that internal, because your inside becomes your outside, right? As within, so without. What I am experiencing, what I am running, what stories, what themes, what feelings, what desires I am having within my body are expressing outwardly into my reality, my waking state, through the sun, which is in GK55, which is the shadow of dishonesty, and the gift of intimacy, and the city of transparency. And so our within illuminates through the sun, Ra, and it gives us the physical form, the physical manifestation. Although when we're in a victim mind, which is what the moon is, and Neptune, you know, all in the 55 today on this lunar eclipse full moon, are going to illuminate are where you are being dishonest with yourself, right? It is going to illuminate your shadows, what you're not seeing, so that you can have a more intimate connection with yourself, with the God self within, with that spirit of God within you, that spark of God within you, so that you can truly live your dream life in alignment with divine will, God's will, or what I refer to as the timeline of synchronicity, where all things are divinely orchestrated and you are aligned at all times with the synchronicity of life and God's plan. But you do have free will to live in illusions and delusions of your ancestors and their patterns and their programming and the indoctrination systems that we've all received on this plane through the Saturnian linearity cube consciousness. So this full moon is really rapturing us. That's the city of Jinki 30 is rapture, okay, where the moon began today. It's desire. It's the shadow of desire. And yes, desire can absolutely keep us in our shadow states because it creates us to be weak to our animalistic nature, our lower mind. Right? Whether that's drugs, it's sex, it's addictions to alcohol, to corn, you know what I'm saying, with the P, and all of these afflictions, even drama, gossip, your own stories of grief and victim, right? We have to become mindful, and that's where that moon, the mother, is showing us, like, you did this. Regardless if you knew of it or not, regardless if you chose it or not, you chose to come here. You chose to incarnate into that lineage. And therefore, you chose to experience what you experienced. And it's time to take ownership of it and to change it. And we've done that. So many ways we have taken accountability for our actions, our thoughts, and held back on chasing what we desired and going, is that really reflecting, and going, is that really suiting me? Is that really helping me? Right? And so when we can look at our desire nature, like a child in a candy store, and go, you don't need this. It's not going to benefit you. You know, what is it? A minute on the lips, 10 years on the hips kind of mentality. Like, just because it'll feel good in the moment doesn't mean that it's going to feel good in the long run, right? Partying and you know, having sex, frivolous sex with just random people, it feels good in the moment when we are giving in to our animalistic nature, which is to just create, procreate, pass on the seed, eat a bunch of food. Food is God. Food tastes good. You know, you're fueling your senses and becoming spiritually evolved, emotionally evolved, mentally evolved, just becoming a mature godly, like, or spiritist being is about moderation and in life, and being able to tell ourselves no, reparenting ourselves, loving ourselves, nurturing ourselves. It might feel good to sit there and the Debbie doubting and being negative to yourself. It's like, oh, I'm so used to this. That's how I normally get the endorphins going. It's an addiction, even to your grief and your sadness and your dwelling and your doubting. You may not think it is, but it is. It's an addiction to the chemicals that are created that your body is so used to having. So this moon, the mother, full illumination of the mother in the 55, the 30 to the 55, is assisting us in having a very honest and intimate connection to our true God self with the sun. It's illuminating that in your life. It's becoming aware. It's bringing it to the surface in the 59, which is intimacy. Having a very honest and transparent conversation with yourself and reflecting in, what have I truly been allowing or repeating from my desire nature, from my victim mind, the lower mind, the animalistic primal mind that has kept me in states of psychosis, separated from the spirit of God within me. In that totality, what has kept me from that full union? Because that's what this is about. This full moon is about coming into union to birth the dream life. But first, we have to be very aware of where we have been living in a nightmare, which could even just look like a Groundhog Day, repeating the same shit. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to be crazy, dramatic. It could just be repetitious, monotonous, routine even. Life doesn't need to be routine. Spirit is mutable. Spirit is mutable. See, that's where you get the mutable signs. Is spirit. Mutable fire, mutable water, mutable earth, mutable air. That's all spirit in the elements. And so mutable water is, with Pisces energy, yes, it's emotional, but it's like your emotions are the fuel to your body. Your body is made of water. And so your emotions are what are programming the waters of your body, the holy waters. Are they holy, or have they been condemned? Have they been ridden with dis-ease, disharmony, right? So spirit is saying, like, to fuel your life in flow, not in monotony, not in groundhog, not in repetition, not in rigidity, but allow it to flow around the bend, just around the river bend. Look at me being Pocahontas today. Just around the river bend, down the rapids. The rapids could be fun. They actually have gone, people go whitewater rafting. I've done that. It's scary, but it's fun. I'm not saying jumping down a freaking waterfall is going to be so much fun. You know what I'm saying? There's obviously limitations to this stuff, but following the path of life and allowing for yourself to fully live, to feel and to embrace the range of emotions, and not just be limited in limiting yourself to the grief, the sorrow, the sadness, the rigidity, the redundance of whatever it is that your chemicals you're addicted to, your addiction, or your limited mind, or your victim mind. It's about taking accountability and choosing to direct your energy, direct your emotions, and find joy even in the sorrow, find joy in the hardship, find gratitude within the grief. Find gratitude for why humanity is experiencing what it's experiencing. Had we not had so much contrast, being in a nightmare and going like, why is everything just this way? Then we wouldn't have broke out and been like, I need to create more. I need to take more power in my life. I need to choose to direct. I need to wake up and become lucid in the dream. Not to control anybody else. Although we do go through phases of that. I'm not gonna be, I've done this. But to enjoy life in the dream. And so this lunar eclipse is waking the collective out of its victim mind, where it's not taking accountability for its life, its direction. And how it's going to do this is through, again, you know, the opposition over here is intimacy. Into me, I see. So there's, you know, and it's also in Virgo. It's just a very earthy, the mother, the earth mother, where spirit births itself into physical form is through the mother, through the virgin, right? And we're coming up on the fall equinox as well. So this is like the harvest seasons coming in when we have an abundance of new beginnings, the harvest of all of our work that we've been putting into our life, you know, and it doesn't mean like physical work, although it can show up that way, but it's about where we have been putting in the development. That's the word I want to use instead of work. We've been developing ourselves. And this is where we see in the fall, the autumn season, and in the winter is when we really see the manifestation or the actualization of manifest means to see. But the actualization is like the tangible of this, because a harvest means like you're going to go out there and you're going to harvest the pumpkins, you're going to harvest the food, and, you know, you're going to pack it up and get it ready for winter when, you know, the crops aren't there. So there's an actualization to this. So this is a time when we're going to reap the fruit, you know, from our inner work, our diligence, our devotion to ourselves, and however that manifests for you, whether that's, you know, you need to look at where this is happening at in your chart, specifically, like what house this is taking place at, because that's going to show you where the harvest is going to come in, because that intimacy is into me, I see. And so if your harvest isn't fruitful, then that's where you can take a deeper dive and go, okay, well, where GK55 or where Virgo is at in your chart specifically, this is where, you know, your heart, you can have that heart to heart, right? You can have that really honest reflection with yourself and go, okay, where can I fine tune my belief systems? Where can I, you know, really see and find gratitude for the situations that have unfolded in my life, right? Where can I take more accountability? It usually is it's in your relationships, right? Because they are a reflection of your ego or your soul or your higher self. That's how they work, right? The people that you're connecting with, all relationships, seventh house relationships, like seventh house, like the other. First house is you. Seventh house is the other. It's the home of, it's the house of open enemies, and it's just reflecting in others. It's not intimate relationships. Seventh house is not about intimate relationships. It can be, but it's more about karmic reflections. Your intimate relationships are going to be eighth house and fifth house, okay? Or fifth house specifically. And fourth house being like home and family and all that. But that's where you'd want to look for like partnerships. If it's happening in your fifth house, then you want to look at, it'll be in relationship, like an intimate relationship. But if we're looking at seventh, but just in general, okay, when we're looking at our reflections in our life, our, you know, in our relationships, and we're condemning, they did this and they did that, and they are this and they are that, like specifically with like narcissism, sociopaths, and psychopaths, this has really been a part of my experience. And that is because I am reflecting in the grandiosity of the external reality and the satanic structure or the Saturnian structure, which has created a bunch of beings that are operating from the heartlessness, the lack of imagination, the lack of emotional connection, which creates sociopaths and narcissists and psychopaths. And, but what purpose did that serve, right? And so my reflections have been in what purpose does that serve me? To know that that's not truth, that's not love, that's not true love, right? And so being a being that came in to break those conditions and structures of not love and finding true love, not the fairy tale princess stuff that you see in Disney movies, not finding true love outside of the self, but finding true love within the self, no matter the external conditions in which I have been subjected to in my experience here, right? And realizing that these sociopathic, psychopathic, and narcissistic beings that have come in to betray me, right? All of these things are a representation of the ego, my ego, that has betrayed me, that has denied me love, that has abandoned me, has rejected me, has shamed me, because it was my ego. And I consider myself very connected, one, with Gaia and the cosmic being. And so I can see this playing out as the larger self and the smaller self, but playing out or the macrocosm through the microcosm. And so having unconditional love for this self and having to dissolve the relationship with the ego by compassion, forgiveness, understanding, and just reparenting, correct, right? That's what we do. And then understanding why that showed up in my life and having forgiveness for myself and having understanding as to why it showed up in the external manifestation of my reality and the collective reality. Which is, it's really a big theme here, because that's what the 55 is. It's the victim mind. It's the narcissist, the one that can never take accountability, that believes their own BS, believes their own lies. It's narcissism. They have fallen in love with their own lies and their own image. It's the false God. It's the God mentality, God complex, right? We call that the patriarchy. Or the Caesar, right? I'm God. And we see that playing out on a large scale. And so this transit collectively is subliminating that in a large way. And it will transpire over the next 6 months that's where we're going to see this actualization of it. We're going to see beings come into true love within themselves, the descent of the divine into the body. That's transparency. And we have over here in the unconscious aspect, unconscious sun and unconscious earth. The unconscious sun is in Jinki 20, which is about presence, the divine presence coming into form. So the unconscious, think of spirit bodies. Everything happens in spirit, and then it manifests into the physical. So 88 days ago, we had the sun in Jinki 20. And now it's coming into manifest. So whenever we're looking at the unconscious, we're seeing all of the unconscious programs that are now becoming actualized or conceptualized in our waking state, in the dream state, which is the black and the transits. So the presence is descending, the majesty of the divine is descending into vessels. It's birthing. This is what the lunar eclipse is doing. It's birthing through Virgo, which is the mother of all creation, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And that is the divine being. That is the celestial being. It's the stellar consciousness, the stellar logos, star logos, higher mind of the cosmic being that we reside within, descending its frequency into vessels that have gone through the purification and have ultimately the purification, which is gene key 30, part of the codon ring of purification. They have purified themselves of their animalistic primal nature and the need to act. It doesn't mean that you don't have desire. It just means that you know when to and when not to engage. It's not about denying desire, but it's about moderation, right? And knowing if that desire is truly for the highest good of all and the harm of none. And by sustaining our desire nature, it's a purification process where you overcome your energetic need to, and it's like an impulse. You're no longer impulsive. You're reserved. You're not reactive in that sense. You're responsive. Like, oh, that would feel good, right? So through this purification process and that reorienting of the energy centers into their higher nature, which is the sublimation process, where the lower nature chakras no longer operate from instinctual animalistic natures, but from the God heart center, higher mind. And now your lower chakras are now reoriented into connecting into their higher counterparts. And you're operating from that field of magnetism, right? That allows for the divine to descend into the vehicle and to be a living embodiment of the divine, the presence, which essentially is the awakening of the third eye, seeing beyond the veils of the illusion, your own disillusionment, that anything is ever outside of you and all is within. And if we don't like what's outside of us, then we have the power to change that by going within or aligning to, right? And so this is, again, the descent of the divine or the awakening of Eden within a greater body of the collective. Whomever is aligned to this, who has gone through the initiations and the purification process, and you'll know. And if you haven't right now, that's okay. There's time. You know, like there is a timing to divinity and to your process. But it's an orientation, a breaking, a severing of the localized mind, the lower mind, into the higher mind, into omnipresence, the omniscience of the Godhead. We have Pluto here in Gene Key 58. This is bliss, the body of bliss. And coming into that bliss state within the collective. So this is like a collective. Now Pluto, it's the crown chakra, and it is also the soul. It is the destroyer. It destroys anything and all things that are limiting the soul. So when we look at it in our charts, it represents a collective, the collective soul. Okay. So, and it's also your soul aspect. It's very connected to your soul aspect. And so what we're seeing here with the 58, it's again, the soul descending Okay, like the soul coming in and overriding the ego pattern on a large scale, because 58 denotes collective bliss. So collective nirvana, like coming into a collective enlightenment, is what the 58 is about. And so Pluto is removing all things that are blocking the collective soul, which is what we are, from experiencing enlightenment, which is the oneness with the God source. So it's so beautiful that this is all happening. This lunar eclipse and full moon is happening within Pisces. Not to mention the North Node. I think I said this earlier, but the North Node is in GK63, which is truth, the ultimate truth, not a subjective truth, not a conceptual truth, but the whole truth, the God's truth, universal truth. Right? And so that brings us into enlightenment, not a subjective, like, oh my God, this, and, you know, my personal perceptions, that, and this is how I've seen it, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's removing all of that, those layers of shit. All is void. All is nothing. I know nothing, but all things. When you know nothing, you know everything. Same thing, all is void. The black sun, space, where all things originate from, space, the primordial space, building out of thin air, right? Pulling in the elements all around us and creating with that. Because all is sound, frequency, energetics. And it's just based on what we choose to create with it, co-create with it. All is void. From nothing comes everything, and from everything returns to no thing. The beginning is the end. And so this is the descent and grace descending into the collective. You know, and there's many agents, as Richard Rudd likes to say in his 7 Sacred Seals teachings. There are the 7 agents of grace. There's more, there's so many more, but there's the 7 agents of grace, which are the 7 rays. And collectively, we've moved in since the early 1900s when Uranus was discovered, right? That means that our collective mind was able to conceptualize and project Uranus into the cosmos. That way it became an aspect or an attribute of the human psyche, the development, because as within, so without. So in the early 1900s, when Uranus made its presence known, that's when the 7th ray became the dominant ray in our collective morphogenetic field. So we are being held by the agent of the 7th ray, which is order through ceremonial magic, dance, play, expansion, ceremony, order, you know, bringing spirit into the physical through ritual. This is why you see in the backward system, the not self, the ego, or not the God self, but the individuated self, this in the Satan system, the Satan matrix system. That's why you see them doing all of the not so loving rituals of dance and all that, because they understand what's going on. But we can do this. We do this ritual, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be in the grandiose manners in which they're doing it, and to the God in which they're honoring, which is a small God, right? Not the greater God, not the cosmic mother, not the Mother, Father, Holy Spirit, right? They're honoring their small God, Saturn, the cube, the carbon, But this coming into rituals, coming into ritual is, finding gratitude, going for a walk, observing nature, dancing, music, just devotion to yourself, because you're honoring and having, a practice of devotion to the self, the cells, the water, the spark of spirit, the divinity that we are. It's not that you're idolizing yourself as like, oh, I'm God, in a God complex. You're just like, I'm here. And my presence, when loved and adored and adorned, in the right way, in loving ways, brings homage and love to the divine, because the Holy Spirit is within me. And so when I love myself, I honor myself, I treat myself well, I treat others well, love thy neighbor like you love and treat yourself, right? When I do this and I bless others and I reflect lovingly and treat others lovingly, and I live in that capacity of gratitude and appreciation, then I am in order with the divine and bringing more spirit into the physical, right? With intention, living intentionally is another way to say the seventh ray. So the seventh ray has been guiding, and that's where we see the indigo ray, indigo consciousness, which is a culmination of all of the rays in one. And so Pluto in the 58, about bringing the collective into enlightenment, a collective enlightenment. So the soul of humanity can be elevated into a dream, a true dream, a loving dream, right? An expansive dream, a playful place to be, which is going to break all of the structures. It is in Capricorn, okay? It breaks all the forms and structures of the system that has been governing humanity as an outside hierarchical, toxic father, toxic structure, right? It's not on. I had a dream last night too, randomly. I was saying this, but I had a dream. And like we were building a house, but the house was like, I was in a house and the house kept sliding. And I was like, we need foundation. We need foundation. The house kept sliding down the hill. I was like, and people kept pushing this house back on the hill. I was like, you need concrete. We need to build foundation. And, I can take that into my own life too. But I was like, in reality, like, we need new foundations to hold the structure of humanity, where we're going, what we're ascending to, what we're ascending and descending. We are bringing heaven to earth. We are bringing the heavenly consciousness to the earthly realm. So that means in order to project a new reality, we have to have new internal foundations, and we cannot create a new reality on old structures that just were falling apart, because they weren't truth. They were limited, right? And so we're birthing through the divine, descending into, or the presence, and awakening Eden, which is allowing for the divine to show you, or to see and to feel and to know your unity, your oneness, right? To sever that sense of individualization and return to the Godhead, and to know that and to feel that, to viscerally, right, have that sensual visual. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like all of your senses will be heightened, all of your, and this is going to be in a collective way. And so our our external projected reality matches the true internal eternal creations, the true dream, God's dream. God's dream will be, right? God's plan will be as on earth as it is in heaven, right? So we're to actualize heaven on earth. So we had to clear out all of the impositions of the not self, of the ego self, of the toxic, self. We had to demolish that so that this heavenly realm could be projected, because we don't actually see our reality. We are projecting that through our senses. And so when our senses and our mind is clear and we're in a state of clarity, then we're able to project this divine realm. And it is a projection. And so this lunar eclipse is that. It is purifying the victim mind. It is rapturing us from the impurities of the desire nature, the animalistic nature, so that we can come into a collective enlightenment. This is the Great Awakening. These are the calculations for that Great Awakening. We have Venus in GK56, which is the collective SQ, which is the collective, in your gene key profile would be your unconscious Venus placement. But in the codon ring of matter, right here, the 46, this is representing the first 0 to 7 years. Gene key 46 does. This is ecstasy, from seriousness to delight to ecstasy. So Venus being here during this transit is assisting us in rewriting the first 7 years of our life. The codon ring of matter is in everybody. You can have a personal piece of whatever the pie is that you're within the 64 codons. But we all have every one of them. Your planets, you just took on certain termas. So you took on certain karmas. But the 46 is a building block in the codon ring of matter, which is what is being transformed, matter, from matter, carbon base, and to semi-etheric, which is the divine dream. Heaven on earth. Stellar logos, gaseous silica, the glittering, shining jewels in the heavens. Emeralds and sapphires and, what talks about in the Bible, the 12 jewels. Okay, these are the stellar logos, the stars. Okay, and the emanations, because we now know and are aware that those stars are cymatic, their frequency, right? And they radiate colors that are associated with certain gemstones. And we have those gemstones, we could say in the heavenly realms, but they're in the gaseous planes, which exist within our auric field, the inert gases, the noble gases, to be a noble being, a celestial being. So we will be drawing from those fields, those minerals, and projecting it through into this reality. But in order to do that, we have to be purified so that the internal creation, God's plan, your black sun internal creation, is not diluted or manipulated from or relocated into limiting belief systems of the ego, distorted lower mind, ego, personal will, God's will, personal will, right? So that's what this is, a giant dismantling, so that the codon ring of matter, getting back to that, the codon ring of matter can mutate from matter to semi-etheric form, which is where the codon ring of Gaia comes in, which is gene key 19, 60, and 61. The future human, and then this, which is the 19, or the sensitive, or the final sacrifice, where we sacrifice our ego and the Christ descends into the physical form, which is the 19, and it shifts the physical form, which is our Merkaba, because we're just a standing scalar wave of light, fission and fusion of light and minerals, okay? And then the 61 is coming into the Holy of Holies, which is the heavenly being heaved up into the higher mind and being enlightened. So that our Merkaba, going from being that carbon-based Merkaba, which has a limited amount of light, that it's about the angles and the vertices and how much light refraction, thank you, refraction on the vertices, the angles of light. And so it mutates. It's basically adding in more angles of light that the Merkaba can hold and emanate. So from a dodecahedron to, from the Merkaba that we're experiencing to like a stellar dodecahedron. So there's just more angles of light that we will be emanating. And then that changes, all right, our entire reality. But it is a process. And these are, so the 46 is, again, it's the reprogramming with having Venus here. And Venus is math. Venus is, fifth ray, what is concrete science and knowledge. She's bringing in the fifth ray. These are the rays, the cosmic rays are agents of grace. And so each planet, which is a planetary logos, carry an agent or two or three of grace. Venus happens to carry the fifth ray, what is concrete science and knowledge, which is why she is renowned for justice, which is what is concrete science and what is truth. And so she's bringing that in through the 46 right now and reorienting that so that we can have that mutation and our Merkaba shift. And so that reorientation is bringing through divine justice. And so that spirit coming into the physical, the first 7 years of your life, 0 to 7, that spirit is being reoriented from the abandoned, rejected, neglected, abused child, the first 7 years, right? Into an unconditionally loved, a child that can live and play in their imagination and feel supported and guided and, supported and living in that dream come true, And out of that, well, you can't be that. Like again, like we've been living in a monotonous nightmare of, well, you can't be a superstar whenever you get older. Do you see the house that you're growing up in, kid? Or nobody's going to like you. Look how fat you are. Look at your twisted teeth. Get your dreams out of the clouds. That's the kind of life we've been living in, right? A limiting, like our parents were the embodiment of a toxic ego, a cosmic being's sense of self that was deflated, angry, abandoned. And then we all had pieces of it. And so we came in here and cleaned it up and go, I don't want to be treated like that anymore. I don't want my kids to be treated like that anymore. So I got to change me. And finally, we're waking up from that nightmare of like, that's not how I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to honor myself. I'm going to show up for myself. And when things come in that are not in alignment, I'm going to say no. Because it's not what I actually want to do. And I'm not going to people please. And I'm not going to sleep with the person, even if I'm married to them, because I don't have a connection with them and I'm going to leave them because they don't want to grow, and that's okay. And I'm not going to gossip. I'm not going to be upset about them. In all of my relationships, I'm not going to be upset with my friends that I'm not friends with anymore because they don't want to grow. They want to sit around and do the same thing. I'm not that anymore. I'm showing up for myself. I'm being my best version. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm speaking the way that I want other people to speak to me. I'm treating myself the way I want other people to treat me. I'm loving myself rightly. I'm loving me the way God loves me. I'm no longer allowing for the ego, the narcissist, the person and the people and the energy that isn't love to tell me what love is or isn't. So that I can grow up and live the dream that I want to, that God has for me, which is heaven on earth, and feel free to do it. Feel supported in doing it. That's what this transit is. That's what this eclipse is. We have Jupiter in Gene Key 8. From mediocrity to style to exquisiteness. Jupiter is expanding our hearts. It's part of the second ray. Love and wisdom, the mother. And it's in Taurus, which is the mother arc. It is the cow. It is the milk of the mother. It is the earth mother supporting us. Nature and all of her creatures supporting us, expanding us. So Jupiter's expanding us through nature from the mediocrity of the monotony of our Groundhog Day nightmare. And she's embracing us. So Jupiter is embracing us and saying, come, my child, because Jupiter is the great expander. Jupiter represents Jesus. It's Jupiter and Zeus. In the Greek mythos, Jupiter is given the name Zeus. And, Viking mythos, it's given Odin. So Jupiter, or Jesus, or Zeus, is about expanding the Christ, the tenderness, the loving, the compassion, right? It's the ancient ruler of Pisces, right? It's inviting us into a deeper relationship with our body, right? Taurus, the body, the second house, our finances, but it's really, it's 4 o'clock. I was getting a call. So it's expanding us into our body, through our body, right? Through that second house, through luxury. It's sensual. It's what I'm getting at. It's very sensual. It's very tangible. So it's expanding us in tangible ways through the 8th house into embracing our own style, our own uniqueness. This is the key of authenticity, to show up authentically as yourself in all your flavors, and to allow nature and its abundance to come in, to receive from all of nature. Like, there's nothing wrong with the material realm, with matter and animals and all. There's nothing wrong with the earthly realm. It's not denying our animalistic aspects either. It's not denying your desire. It's just embracing it with right intention, with moderation, and to come into this exquisiteness. I'm actually guided to read the exquisiteness. Ow, my leg. Oh, give me a minute, guys. I don't even know if you guys are writing anything. Hold on, let me stop screen sharing for a second. Let me see if there's anybody in the comment section. Nothing yet. Only 2 watching. Wow. Oh well, the replay will get it. All right. Let me go back to screen share. Actually, I don't need a screen share. I'm gonna read. So Gene Key 8. Actually, like, I thought there's not a lot of people in here. That means that my transmission is clear. It's not being infiltrated. All right. So the way of style, the city of exquisiteness, the ring of water. All right, let's read this city a little bit. And this is part of his contemplations. This is not out of the 64. This is out of the 64 ways, not out of transmission. So exquisiteness. Certain gene keys trigger spontaneous images inside us. He says, I always see a diamond here. This is the diamond self, gene key 8. Why do I see a diamond? Well, it's a metaphor, a symbol, an emblem of exquisiteness. The diamond is multifaceted, just like the self, and yet it's also one, invisibly beautiful. It's also rare, unique, and geometrically perfect. The octahedral shape of the diamond is universal to all life forms, from DNA helixes to the universal lattice that holds together all creation. The origin of the 8th hexagram in the I Ching is holding together. The universe is held together by the exquisite invisible unity. And it's also why the 8th gene key is allied to the 2nd gene key of unity through the codon ring of water. This is the codon ring of water. And these 2 gene keys are the 2 great feminine archetypes. Perhaps that's why they say diamonds are a girl's best friend. Yet on its own, the diamond is not enough of a symbol to convey the other part of the 8th city. We're each exquisite, indivisible, unique aloneness, standing like jewels in the sparkling flood of space-time. The 8th city also conveys the essence of the feminine quality of flow. The diamond is brittle, just like the individual who doesn't know its true nature as one with all that is. This city is also fluid, ever-changing, curving, unpredictable, yielding, and weak. It's weak in the most mystical sense of the word. The diamond may be strong, but water is weak. It has no fixed substance, and therefore it is a kind of weakness that nothing can stick to. It's magnetically weak. Well, I know that to be fucking false. I know that Richard, I'm like reading this, but I'm like, he doesn't know about a lot of things, but I know that he's like more metaphorical and like poetic than anything. Because when you freeze ice, it becomes magnetic, and water becomes ice when it's fucking cold and frozen. Anyways, he doesn't know all this stuff, but anyways, it attracts no karma, no agenda, no attention, no opposition. It's like a monopole, an element resting in infinity. The 8th city is completely at rest. It is the ultimate rebellion, to do nothing. We become an anti-rebel. We move beyond the game of rebellion and individuality. We enter the paradox, and in finding ourselves, we simultaneously lost ourselves. So, the 8th city has embraced the wordless world of impermanence. It's found the permanence of consciousness within the impermanence of form. And that's what releases its full atomic beauty. To enter the Siddhic realm is to let go of all history as though it never even happened. Millions of years of evolution, story, poetry, wisdom, love, humanity's final wonderful flowering. And then poof, it's just all erased with no trace. A whole story just forgotten. All of our drama, our evolution, our striving, our seeking, all one day gone, and then we rest. Consciousness just rests. The 8th city is completely at ease. Then we fall into this fluid state where our heart sits floating like a diamond lotus on the ever-changing waters of life. Then our essence will be at ease, our sense at ease. It was all just a joke. It was all just a game. As all the poets have always known, our beautiful, exquisite world and all of us, our souls, are nothing more than a puff of dust in the wind. Thus shall you think of this fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. How fitting. That goes to the idea, the ideology, that we all just wake up and it was all but a dream, which is definitely a possibility. And what this eclipse could be programming in to the collective. But it was all just a dream. I've said this myself on a personal note, that we just wake up like Alice under the tree, who had just experienced the greatest adventure that she never went on. It was all but a dream. What would that be like? And waking up in a divine reality. We shall see, you know, like that's what this is, to become the diamond self, to see through all the many facets of the self. We are just a cosmic being experiencing itself in all of its facets. So we shall see. All right. Oh my God, yeah, and we have Mars and GK55. It's miracles through wormholes. All we have to do is believe and wake up. Wake up. Wake up. I hope you have an amazing day. Set your intentions. Be very transparent with yourself. It's all been a play. It's all been an experience of separation. And we are returning home to the one. Because all is one. To the void. Happy lunar eclipse in Pisces. Namaste.